like to call the 2023-2024 annual meeting to order.
A lot of stuff happening up here. So friends, let us be in prayer. Good and gracious God of light and wonder, of possibilities, of new beginnings, of truth, of light and love. We come this day to do your holy work in this place and time, so we ask for your presence to be abundant among us, that we may do our best work for your glory. And we ask all this in Jesus' name. Amen.
We don't have Doug. Doug's probably still downstairs. I can't hear you. Well, we have more people here today than we had last year at the meeting, so we have a quorum. Waiting for Doug.
Sure. Sorry, I'm a little late. I had to honor our safe church policies to have 2 people in the room before I could leave the room. So, okay, the call of the 245th annual meeting of the members of Center Congregational Church. The 245th meeting of the members of Center Congregational Church, United Church of Christ, Manchester, Connecticut, will be held in the church sanctuary on Sunday, June 9th, 2024, immediately following the 10 a.m. service of worship, to hear and act upon the following: a proposal to accept the reports of the pastor, staff, officers, boards, committees, and delegates as set forth in the record of our stewardship and ministry 2023-2024. A proposal to accept report of the nominating committee nominating new officers, board and committee members, and delegates. A proposal to accept the 2024-2025 annual budget as proposed by the Finance Stewardship Board and approved by Church Council, Any other business that may legally come before the annual meeting. Respectfully submitted, Douglas T. Sanborn, Clerk of the Church, dated May 6, 2024. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to do voting by voice vote? Second. All those in favor say yes. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. The minutes of the June 2023 annual meeting are on page 4. Can I have a motion to accept the minutes from the June 2023 annual meeting? Second. Any discussion? All those in favor say yes. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. Ryan?
Good morning. Can everyone hear me? Great, thank you. My name is Ryan Fisher. I'm treasurer of the church, along with Ray, who is the assistant treasurer. The budget for this year's council is located in the back of the packet. So I just want to make sure you guys are all aware. It's page 39. I don't believe it's numbered, but this year's budget's going to be kind of similar to what past year's budgets have been. Our expenses, have been similar across the board for many years. The biggest change in the budget really comes down to income. There's slight changes to certain groups of the budgeting items, but for the most part, the budget's very similar. And as in years past, there's been, just significant deficits. And, each year we have a deficit. It's just, less money that we just haven't recouped and haven't used up. Just like in any business, we rely on revenue to keep up with our expenses. And when we don't have enough revenue to cover our expenses, we're going to eat into our savings and different accounts, such as like the trustees accounts. So looking at this year's budget compared to last year's budget, there has been more pledge receipts, and that's great. More people have pledged this year than last year by about 15,000. So that's great. I know there's been more attendance at church, so that's been big. So the more people, the more pledges that we get, the more money that we can rely on to come in. Some of the things that are unable to rely on are unpledged income. So it's anything from people coming in from time to time, or just members who give money whenever they come. So it's good to see that we've have an increase of pledge receipts. But we're still, looking at, an overall, deficit for the year with that. Scrolling down, just other receipts. It's income from the trustees, that's remaining the same. And then there's other items such as the Wilson Foundation, room use for the church and school, that are downstairs and upstairs. Church fair income, which Karen has graciously decided to become chair of. So we appreciate that, because that's income that we, didn't have the past, 2 years ago with COVID. So, we're hoping to outdo what we did last year. But as you can see, revenue income has, what we anticipate has increased by about $10,000 just compared to last year. And then if you go through the other pages, you'll see that, our biggest expenses right now, it's staff and it's the building. Again, it's expenses that, we've had for number of years, and, things are going to change, just each year based on, salary increases, and a variety of things, but for the most part, our expenses have been kind of the same. So if you look at compensation total, it's, almost $191,000, just for staff. And then if you look at, what we've received, for income on the previous page, it's, it's a significant portion of that budget just goes to, our staff. The next section is property. Rich in the property department has done a good job. They've cut expenses from what they've had in past year's budget. But as always, there's unanticipated expenses that we may not, be aware of. So as much as it's managed well, there's always something that could pop up that may impact it. But, we're looking, Rich was able to cut it from $7,000 from last year. So that's, a good portion that we could save. But, it could always differ. Let's see, going through just the other departments, just general increases for staff raises, Department of Worship, music cost, that's changed slightly now that we have Danielle as our music program director, and we're grateful for that because it, brings a new life to the worship. So there's the cost that we didn't have, we budgeted last year for them, and then based on when Danielle came aboard, they kind of got shifted. So they were in the budget, there's just some of the numbers kind of got moved around. So there's, similar numbers last year to this year with Danielle. Faith Formation, the budgets kind of remain the same. And then if you just keep going to the next page. Very similar numbers across the board. These are just kind of standard expenses that we have for the church. So overall, based on the numbers here, we have a deficit of $45,000. And that number, again, will change slightly because there are general cost savings. There's some things that we don't spend during the year that we budget for, but it's good to have it in the budget just in case those expenses come up. But as you can see, looking at last year's budget compared to what we have versus what we've anticipated, the number is still very similar to, again, the story that it's been just a deficit. Some increase, some new numbers kind of come in. Again, these are as of the actual results. Those are as of April 30th, and the third column is just kind of a general update. But based on today, we're actually doing better than what we've anticipated. Actual results, and again, there's some expenses that Cheryl hasn't entered for May, but we're actually at only a $4,000 deficit. So we've got 2 more months left of expenses, including the expenses that haven't gone in yet for May. So that surplus number at the very end is going to probably be a positive number. But again, just the more that, the more deficit that we have, it's going to be, just harder and harder to operate. I guess, does anybody have any questions? Yep. Oh.
Why were we not licensing the music previously, and we're just starting to do that?
Yeah, that was just lumped in for under like the music program. So
Gotcha.
Danielle just wanted to break it out to kind of make the budget, just as to track expenses, especially for her.
Okay.
So
no,
that's all.
That's understandable. I was just curious. Thank you, and thank you, Danielle.
Yeah.
Can you explain what the office equipment contracts entails?
Yep. Yeah. So that's going to be anything from like postage, the postage machine, the printer cost, different items in the church office that that we don't own, that we kind of lease out, and so that number is, it changed a little bit from last year if you look at that, but the biggest thing is just, we had the printer issue, which you probably all noticed with the streak in the program, that's gone and fixed. And items like that tend to increase just, over time. So that's what that equipment budget line item is. It's really just cost to lease those items for the printer so we can, print all these pages out for the staff to do their jobs.
Hey, Ryan?
Yes.
I think we also lease the postage meter.
Yep, that's
Okay.
part of that too. So the postage meter, the printer meter, and then some other, smaller equipment items that are in there. When I went through and I made the budget, I tried to look at what we expensed this year and tried to just make sure it reflected, probably what it's going to be about. But we did have the change in the printer mid-year, so that's one reason why the number kind of shifted from last year. Yep.
Ray Joyner, I've been working with the property committee. First, I'd like to thank Rich for being there for so many uncounted hours every week whenever I try to repair things. This church was built in 1905, and there are many things that look rickety, and people look at them and say, let's replace them, but many times the old stuff is better, and all it needs is a little glue or some lubricant or polish it up. So if something's broken, contact Rich and we'll look at it, and if we can't fix it, then maybe we'll buy a new one. As an example, the chairs on the altar were getting wobbly and falling apart, and I went online and found out that the company that built them went out of business in 1908, which makes them antiques, and we really shouldn't just discard them. So I glued them back together and put some finish on them, and now they seem to function just fine. So we saved a bundle of money there. Just right now I got a couple locks that don't meet fire code. I don't know where I'm going to get parts. They're 119 or whatever years old, and but we'll keep looking for stuff to fix. I hate to cut a piece out of a door and patch it to put a new lock in when the old lock can be just repaired. As an example, I just recently restored a door. It was forced open, and there was considerable damage to it. And when I took the lock apart, I found a piece of a skeleton key inside, which explains why it was forced open. Nobody could find the key. So, thank you.
Jeff?
I'll just while he's going over, thank you for, obviously, the big thing is on the note that I had in the kind of beginning of the package is, if you have, items and talents and things like that you can bring to church that can kind of help save money, that's huge. Any kind of talents, we know times, your own time is valuable, but any talent that we may not know about or that you may think can kind of help us in any kind of those aspects, it's a major cost savings. It's it's going to help property, will help just general expenses. It brings together, more community if you get a group of people involved to, work on it together. So any kind of talents and time that you may have that you may, think will help us, the more the better, and, certainly just will help the church overall.
Judy Tancredi. I have a question about the communication manager's hourly salary, hourly pay. Is it based on minimum wage increases and never on performance? It appears someone working 3 years for us would have been appreciated in some way by a raise increase given good attendance, good performance, et cetera. But it looks like it's based solely on when we're told we have to increase.
Yeah, so with the staff raises, there's a couple things. The new Connecticut law did, impact that decision some. As you know, it's minimum wage is based on inflation, and then just based on where those staff salaries were at the time. They had to get bumped up to meet the new laws that we have. The thing about the staff raises too is I know that if you look at the numbers, it looks like the numbers kind of changed. A lot of it was just it's a budgeting number. It's tough because they don't get paid for certain things like holidays and time off. There's no sick days, things like that. So, trying to make the budget. I know last year I may have had the numbers of hours for certain individuals off. So when you put in the budget by an extra hour per week, it's going to make the overall budgeted number look off when the numbers can change. So if you look at the numbers there for the main ones are office manager, property manager, and communication manager. They're set the same, but there are slight differences in their salaries. But we do know that come, I think actually in maybe 3 or 4 months, we'll know what the new minimum wage is for Connecticut. So we tried to anticipate what that might be. But it's a combination of not having, not thinking we had the funds to give those raises. It's just unfortunate. Sometimes it's timing of the review and now with the new Connecticut law. So there are some slight, differences in pay that may not show up on paper, but the differences are going to be minimal. So it's tough to see on paper, but I think when personnel decided on raises, there were some changes to help reflect timing and those efforts that maybe not were discussed.
I think there's a risk involved here in not acknowledging one's performance in a job. I know this very well because I used to be the communications manager a long time ago when I was a member of the church, and I still am, but my point being that I wasn't that concerned about what my salary was because I was a member of the church. Mm-hmm. And now we can't do that. We've laid down the law that no one can be a member of the church and be an employee of the church. So now we have someone from outside working, doing a good job as far as I can see, good performance, good attendance, and it looks like she is going to be getting the same wage that a teenager going to McDonald's is going to get, minimum wage. I don't see the fairness in that after 3 years. So I want to make a point about that. I know it's tough. Budgets are always tough, but I think we have to acknowledge that. Okay. I've said my piece. Okay, I'm done.
Hi, Barbara Manasian. I just have a quick question for property. When they took away the CNS custodial services, did you add a little extra to the church one to cover those rooms, even though they weren't going to be used the same way?
So, no, what we did instead is we shifted the property manager to move over to do some of those rooms to take care of that issue for us.
Okay, all right, thanks.
It's a trade-off we have to do. So, since I'm up here, I'm going to bring in my 2 cents. So, Ryan's been kind, but the real issue for us is income. And we have a couple of things that are seriously in our way. One is we have the Wilson Fund, which has been uncooperative and has not given us what they're supposed to give us in the last 2 years. For us, that looked like about $20,000. That pushes our deficit around. You know, they were supposed to give us $10,000 last year. They didn't do that. That moved our deficit down $10,000. They still have not given any amount this year, and that'll push us down another $10,000 on our budget. So we're thinking we need to figure out how to resolve that issue. Ryan and Ray have tried to contact these people and try and get them to do something. You know, we've been doing that for the last almost 4 years now, and Ray was able to get them to put in one, give us one payment that they said covered everything, and we can't understand how that can possibly be. So we're going to have to get more. This is the Wilson Fund, right? So there was the Wilson gentleman had set up a trust someplace at a bank. It moved from that bank to another bank. It now has moved to a third bank, and along the way it seems to have lost its covenant to us. And so we're having to try and figure out what to do to fix that problem. Because that, you know, that's a lot of money for our small church. Next thing is, income is a thing we have to figure out how to do. We probably will have to do a supplemental fundraiser program this year, because at the end, if we let it run as it is now, we will have consumed all of our reserve. And that's not a good sense. We'll also be looking at renting out more space. We have a couple of people who have shown interest in space, and now the question is, will they go forward or not? I have one person I know for sure wants to take more space, but I have to work out what room am I going to give up in this building for them all the time. And that's a game we have to play now in that sense. And then there are other places we have to look at raising funds. You know, and we have to decide how we're going to do that. You know, are we doing it in the most respectful way and to meet our God's call for this church to reach out to the community? We try and reach out to the community, and we do it, you know, as best we can. With property, we try and lease space, give space to people in this community that make this community better for us. Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, NAMI, you know, on that list goes on. Those people who do a great job to this community to make it better, and we want to help continue to support them. But if we don't figure out how to increase our income, we won't be able to support them. We won't be able to support ourselves. We won't be able to do any of the missions that we have here, because it'll be done. And we have to start seriously thinking about, what does that mean? What do we have to do? What are we willing to put up with? You know, are we willing to put up being more aggressive about, maybe aggressive's not the right word, more in your face about giving money when you're at worship. You know, we don't, when people come and get baptisms, we have a whole series of families that show up. We don't pass the plate for that information. We don't make it obvious that they probably should give something for that. Every church in the world collects money for baptisms from these families, usually by passing the plate. We don't do it. We have to decide, what things are we going to trade off that we're going to be comfortable with? We're going to have to start asking people and suggesting to people that maybe you need to give more. And that's hard. Oh, sorry. And that's going to be hard. But, you know, we also have to train people to understand that giving's not a burden. Giving is a way to worship forward. And we don't seem to understand that well. The churches don't understand that well generally. It takes a while in education. And we're going to all say, but I can't give anymore. That may be true. But one has to look at and say what that really means to them. Thank you.
So piggybacking off of raising more funds, I think, and like getting in your face, like you said, Rich, I think what we need to do as a community is to put ourselves out there. And we are doing that on the social media, on Facebook, and doing the live feeds. But we need to be visible to our community, such as walking in the parades. We could walk in the 4th of July parade coming up. That's in just a few weeks. We could do the Memorial Day parade. That's going to be next year. And if we're willing to, that puts our faces in the community, names with the church, faces with the church, and we can interact with our community better. And if we did like boosted Facebook posts, I know that's another added cost to the overall budget, but it could be just something small, even if it's just quarterly, boost a post so that we get noticed by more people, and potentially putting, I know Joyce was talking with me about our YouTube page. If we could get past sermons up, I know that the internet might be an issue for that, for uploading purposes, but you might have somebody willing to help out with that. Even though I may not have a lot of spare time, I still love doing that stuff, and I know the background of it. And doing potential reels on Facebook, like those little quick videos of quick sermons, reading a passage, just getting our faces out there to the community, because we need to grow our community so that we can have the funds that we need in order to do the things that we want to do. We want to spend the time together. We need to grow and liven our space here. I think that covered everything.
So that would be terrific. As a person who always says that, I love those ideas, but what I really need is a champion to drive those ideas forward. And that's what we help. So if you're willing to do that, champion and driving forward, we'll make it work for you. We have been trying to increase our public image in the town. We've managed to get the tree lighting moved up to here. We should take advantage of that tree lighting and invite people in, their coffee, and then have brochures ready to talking to them about what is our Christmas Eve service going to be like? When do you come in and see for that? And make sure we can leverage the advantage of having people here. One of the problems for most churches is getting new traffic to show up so you have an opportunity to talk to them. And we're working to try and figure that out. The tree lighting is one of those places where we're going to bring people here who never come here on a regular basis. We have a chance to promote ourselves to them. We should take advantage of that.
And one of the things, we have so many opportunities, like Rich was saying, and it's bringing people into the church for those opportunities, bringing people in for the fair, all of us getting involved in it and bringing people in. It's coming to the Bobby Joe Valentine concert and inviting people from the community. We did have some people from the community show up, which was wonderful. But those are the types of things, too, where we get people in the door. But it's up to each of us to make the effort to invite people to come in. So, just a thought.
being on the property committee for years, I've noticed that as the membership decreases, a higher portion of donations has to go to building the property because the property has needs that can't be reduced, you know, heating and et cetera. But I've also noticed that we've spent a huge amount of money bringing the building up to code for the fire department and the building department, lighting, locks, all kinds of different things. And I think we pretty much got that covered, don't we, Rich? I think.
You still have things we have to do, you know, fixing up items, but they're all within a manageable thing. There are some serious problems we have to worry about. Knob and tube in this building right here, this room. You're sitting on it. Needs to be replaced. We've talked to a couple of people about how we could approach that problem. It's pricey, and so we're working on how to make that work for us.
You've got radiators approaching a century old, and we have to do these things because we can't bring in people from outside for room use fees if we don't meet those codes. So it's an important thing we have to do. It's an ongoing expense. It seems like a lot of money, but hopefully we'll catch up to it sooner or later, and the room use fees can increase, and then we'll be doing okay.
Yep. It is always a balancing act for the property committee to decide where we're going to spend that money and where we'll get resources for it. But, you know, we attempt to find items that save us from more damage. So last January, we had the roof, that section over there, replaced. Paid it out of our capital reserve fund that we've been putting into over the last, I don't know, 20 years. You know, so that cost us $10,000, but that was planned to be replaced. And that stopped the damage that we had where we were damaging the walls in the rooms upstairs, the ceilings, and that's moving forward. We look at where is the best opportunity to minimize our additional future costs.
Any more questions?
Have you guys discussed other options instead of just putting our money back into this building? Like, have you guys discussed gifting this building to the town and finding a more suitable building for us, or any of those kind of options?
So we did talk to a realtor about what it would mean to require to sell this building. Oh. Well, you have to decide what you want to do, you know, but that was one of the options. I mean, you have to figure out how to do something with cash. Gifting it to the town, I don't know what that means. We have to figure that out. But one of the things is trying to find a better location. All of the difficulties of this building, you cannot beat the location. Churches, you know, when they go and plant a building, they look for a place that's like this location.
So in a couple of years, we keep on dwindling our funds, and we are nothing. We don't even have enough money to support ourselves next year if we don't do something.
That's correct.
So let's talk about other options.
I'm open to ideas. You know, if you want to try and champion something, come see me. We'll help it out.
Have there been any grants that we've looked into that, like through the Historical Society, that could help fund any repairs that we need for the church, or to make it a historical site, like an actual historical site, because Eastford Congregational Church did that, and they got federal money to fund repairs around the church.
So we have looked at those options. We have also tried to apply for those grants. We have not succeeded at that. That may be that our skill set is not here for that. And we need to find somebody who has a better skill set for granting. There are several restoration, I guess is not quite the right name, but maintaining historical sites. There are funds out there for that purpose, and we've looked at it, but it's a daunting task to generate the grant request or the request for funds. And we just don't have that skill set readily available to us. If somebody willing to provide that to us or has that skill set, it would be great. There is a lot of money on the grant side available. I just don't know how to get it.
I'm just asking this out of curiosity, but have there been any discussions with the other Congregational church in town about the possibility of merging? Their church is dwindling very much, and I know that their proposed plan to yoke with Buckingham fell through, and a friend of mine who goes there seems to think that their minister is going to retire this fall. And, you know, I don't know, can the town of Manchester support two Congregational churches at this time? It just seems like someone should be maybe talking to them, so maybe someone has, I don't know, I'd like to know.
So I guess we'll have to say that we have had somebody go talk to them, and I think Matt Quinn has talked to them, and we presented the idea of, could we merge, create a federation, do something. Somebody would have to give up a building, but they didn't even get to that level of discussion. They just said they didn't want to do that.
Right, they don't want to merge. They proposed maybe sharing a pastor, but they don't want to actually merge. So it would be a pastor that would cover both churches. So how you do a service, you know, in each location. Warren said I could do it. But so what, are we going to move to noon for our church service? You know, 11:30? But that's not, we didn't talk in earnest, so I don't really know what they were proposing. But it might have been something like we do July and August. 1 month here, 1 month there, 1 month here, 1 month there. And personally, I think that's not a good idea, because it leaves either building vacant for a month, and it's you lose that presence. Or if someone wants to just show up and they're at the wrong church.
And part of the point would be not having the expenses of two buildings, you know? I'm just surprised that they would be so opposed, because I think their church is probably in worse shape than ours.
But they have a lively mission.
Well, they have that food pantry.
Yep.
We can help them with that.
I'll tell you that trying to merge churches together is an extremely challenging and an emotional, rip-wrenching experience, because we did look at it in my previous church, you know, and it's hard to give up your history if you're going to go someplace else, or if you're going to invite somebody in and change your culture.
And I understand that that's true. At the same time, I wonder what Jesus would think of our attachment to our history and the building. I mean, if it means forming a stronger church that goes forward and can do more mission and more outreach and things like that, then I mean, I can't say what Jesus would say, but I wonder if he would question our attachment to the building and the history.
So I guess all you have to do is look around the building and see all the placards to find out that people of previous history here have attached themselves very much to this building. You know, there are more placards and donation, I guess, or memorial placards in this building that I've ever seen in a lot of places. That make, some things it's hard to get rid of, just because it has an attachment to it. But it's in your, it's almost in the church's DNA, and to try and figure out how to give that up is going to be hard. But I would recommend giving it up, because when I came here, I couldn't believe the amount of things I saw. But
There are
one
churches.
has to adjust to the community that you're in.
Yes. And there's a church in Bridgeport, a UCC church, that had a huge budget. It cost like $900,000 to run that church, and they were dwindling. And so they sold their building. They didn't go away as a church, but they sold their building, this was a couple years ago, and what they did was they kept their communion table, put it on wheels, and rolled it to a new space that was, I don't know if it was another church or not, but it was theirs. But they use that space for so many things. On Sunday, it's for worship. But then they set up a food pantry on other days. But what they did was they went out in the community to say, what is it you need? And people needed food. The pastor's half-time pastor and half-time CEO of Nourish Bridgeport, but it's O-U-R in that word, Nourish. And they developed a hydroponic garden in a warehouse so they can give fresh fruits and vegetables, because people said, we don't get those in a food pantry. And so they've done a whole bunch of different things. So it's possible. They also teach English as a second language. They do all kinds of things, and they transform that space they're in continually during the week. And they do community suppers where they just open up, no cost. You just come in, you come and eat. And, so I'm not saying it's the same thing for us, but there are possibilities. And so because we've thought of things the same way for so long, the Holy Spirit is asking us to think beyond our comfort zone, I think, and to really ponder outrageous things, even if we don't think we can do it. What's your biggest dream for this church? And then at least shoot for the stars and have a plan or talk about it, but we're not even going outside of what we've always done. And so that, I think, is the invitation for us, is to try to expand our ideas. I don't know what it looks like, but there's a whole bunch of us in this room who are creative, smart, talented people. And I'm not saying we're going to know it today in this moment, but I'm inviting you to really ponder this question for our church. Who are we? How do we want to be? Do we want to be in this place? Do we want to be somewhere else? Whatever it is, but then really jot it down and bring it back. Any committee meeting, anyone, whether you're on the committee or not, can attend. Anyone can go to council and say to the moderator, I want to be on the agenda, and here's what I want to talk about. Anyone, this is your church, whether you're in a leadership role or not. You can still be heard. You can come find out what's going on. So I invite you to do that.
So in that inviting, we would ask, from the new council's point of view, that you come to champion that program. Don't come and say, we should be doing this. Come and say, I would like to make this happen, and work at doing that. We had too many examples of people saying, this is what we should be doing, and we never move forward with that.
This church is not the building. This church is the people in it. And I will champion a task force to look into gifting it to the town if that's what people want. I will gather information then.
This is just a thought, but when I was first in the Sunday school in the early 1960s, there were 2 pastors installed, and we had 2 services every Sunday because we had so many people. The mailing list was 2,000 people because of the baby boom. If we invited another church that is losing their place of worship to join us, we could go back temporarily to 2 services and have 1 pastor at each service, and then everybody could, be back with their own pastor, and everybody's happy. Just a suggestion.
I would like at this point to make a motion to approve the budget that the church council has worked so hard to put together, because our discussion is like a side thing. Coming up with ideas is, or probably should be, at a different time, venue, whatever. And I think we need to move this along. But that would at least open it for discussion if we get a second.
So Bertie, I'm asking the question. Are you asking to move the question?
Yes.
Second?
What's the motion?
To approve the budget as it was presented and approved by our church council.
Any discussion? All those in favor say yes. Yes. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. I'm going to give a brief update on the restructuring. Things are going well. We did do a little bit of a change with the worship side and creating that as more of a board over the other groups. That's a fairly recent change. I am happy that council was not involved in much of anything this year. The only thing I recall that we approved was the budget. It's the only thing other than minutes that we approved in the entire year. Karen championed the fair, and Linda championed the bottle drive and auction, and that's what we need people to do. Hey, Rich. The nominating committee, yeah.
In your packet you have here, page 16 through 19, is the slate of people. We have tried to fill most of the positions. One serious one that's open is the vice moderator. So we need to try and pursue that through the rest of the year, or find somebody for that. The one thing I would like to say, I'd just like to thank everybody who put in long periods of time. David in particular had to go through the misery of COVID, and that was in some ways a draining experience for a lot of people. I don't know if that was true for David, but he helped out. He took that challenge on and moved forward on that. Other people have moved off because of, gotten too old, can't go out in the evenings to travel, you can't go out evenings and travel. But we have managed to acquire some newer families, and so that's great. So I offer this slate for approval.
Is that a second or? Thank you. All those in favor say yes.
Do we want to have
Oh.
discussion? Here.
I'm not a delegate to the Southern New England Conference. I'm a delegate. I am not the delegate to the Southern New England Conference. I'm a delegate to the Hartford East Association.
Okay?
That's on page 18.
Yep.
Is this a place where if somebody wanted to volunteer from the floor for a position, you would ask that question?
We can ask that question. Is people wanting to volunteer for an activity? A committee?
Are you offering to be vice moderator? Everybody, that's Evan, Evan Perry. His new member, new family.
Great. We'll take you as vice moderator. Thank you.
So is it, now we approve with the amendment? Do we amend it?
We'll amend that so we have two amendments we have to do. One is to add Kevin Perry to vice moderator and to change Bertie Arcaro's location to actually be Southern New England East Conference. And there will be nobody in the delegates for Southern New England Conference.
Hold on, Leanne. Jeff's coming.
So what does the delegate for the Southern New England Conference do?
Come see me.
I will consider it.
There's an annual meeting that happens once a year,
Yeah.
and you vote for the church, on different resolutions. It's keeping us connected to our greater region, Southern New England Conference, and then
I could do a meeting once a year. I
Yeah.
can do that once a year.
Okay.
All right, Leanne.
Anything else? Can I have a motion to accept the nominating committee report as amended? Second? All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. Next up is the approval of the 2023-24 annual reports. Can I have a motion for the approval of those? Second? Any discussion? All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. Does anyone have any new business they want to bring forward?
I just would like to make a motion that we thank David for his service for the last 3 years you were moderator. We don't need a motion, but thank you.
Thank you.
You beat me to it.
Very trying times.
Yeah, we appreciate it, David. I appreciate all the leadership and all the folks that help in so many ways. I do want to mention, if you haven't noticed it in the bulletin or read it in the newsletter, we are no longer responsible for the bulk mailing label. We're not going to be sending our newsletters out by bulk mail because you have to have 200 people, And some people got 3 copies because we didn't have 200 people. More and more folks want it via email, which is great. So what we will do for those who have no email, we can send them first class, the center. So the Troop 25 has taken over the cost and all that good stuff. We left it as is, but Troop 25 has the expense of it now. And I want to thank Troop 25 too for all the stuff they do for us, all the setting up that the young men and the leaders, you and Scott. Scott's here helping all the time. I want to thank music director Danny for really bringing such life and energy to this place. And I feel new life in this place. It is awesome. So let's keep building on that. Let's do these hard discussions. Let's put our differences out there and brainstorm together, because that's what makes us a good church. It makes us real. So we're just real. What would Jesus do? He wouldn't even have a building. He didn't start a church. He started a movement. So this is what we have now. This is how it's evolved. So let's figure it out. Let's go forward. Let's just be God's people in this place and this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you.